is Cairo. Welcome back or to my channel. So I had this idea of doing like a book tour situation, but kind of books that have helped me along my spiritual journey. These are just ones that I've either have found me or that I felt called to get. I don't necessarily, this is just my own personal preference. I don't care what anybody else does, or everybody's different, but my own preference, I try not to read about something that I'm not like, okay, I don't know how to word this. I try not to indulge and like read into something unless I have had my own personal experiences with it, so I have something to hold it up against. A lot of times, and I believe that you should read everything and get as much knowledge as you can, even if it's something you don't even know if you believe in, but I just find that sometimes things are like, I'll channel something or I'll see it in somebody's past life, and then I have something to research and to hold it against, to be like, well, is this what I saw, and is this my truth for me? So that's pretty much what all of these books have to do with. So I'm really excited to get started. Again, I'm all for reading anything. Maybe I should change my ways and just read about everything and then see if it comes up. Who knows? But that's just how I do it. So let's get started. Okay. So one of the first books that I got, this is like a really, really good one. I was kind of struggling with what was intuition and what was trauma gut feelings, because they're different. And this is when I started to reopen up my abilities after I shut them off after kind of halfway through childhood, because I didn't think it was normal and I was ashamed of them. Whole long story. Anyways, so this one's called A Little Bit of Intuition. I don't know if you can see it. Okay, I think you can. This is really good because it's an introduction to extrasensory perception. They talk about it from a scientific standpoint as well as a spiritual standpoint, and I found it incredibly relatable. It was also really helpful because when I started to reopen these abilities and I hadn't quite honed in on them yet, I was nervous if the messages that I was getting were trauma responses, or if they were actual messages. Now that I've been reopening them, and I've reopened them for a while, and I've been kind of doing this professionally as well, I understand the difference, but in the beginning it's really, really confusing. So if you are somebody who is trying to reopen your abilities and you struggle with that as well, I definitely recommend a book like this, or to just kind of see, it's all a feeling, so just to kind of get involved in that. But that was a really, really good book. Another book, this was kind of a second one. This one found its way to me and I was really stoked about it. It's called Lightworker. And I really liked this because it talked a little bit about everything. It says, understanding your sacred role as a healer, guide, and being of light. I really enjoyed kind of how they described a light worker, and not in like the way that is so over talked about right now, even though there's nothing wrong with that, but the way of like, we truly are, when you take the meat suits off, these divine beings of light, and the way that we all have these abilities if we choose to tap into them or not. And there was nothing, like, they talked about it from a bunch of different perspectives. There's a bunch of different people who kind of like helped this book come together, and I really, really enjoy that. It talks about soul contracts and other natured relationships. It just talks about like empathy, things like that. It talks a little bit about everything, and I really love that. It also like talks about accessing intuition, so that was another good beginner thing for me. But it was also like, they talked about it in the way of, I felt seen reading it as somebody who was kind of born with these abilities and then shut them off and felt crazy for them, and the things that I felt through childhood that I didn't really think that I did. I felt very seen reading this book, and it also helped me because I read this years ago when I was kind of starting to come around to this, and I found that it really, really helped. And it was like a easing in. It was nothing too crazy, because there are some books that I had to put down and be like, my soul knows I'm not ready for this yet. Gotta give it to me slow. So that is another one. It's a really, really good beginner book, which I really love as well. So next, you all know I'm a Reiki healer, and not every Reiki healer works with the chakras. I do though. I tend to get a lot of messages seeing chakras, feeling chakras, and which ones are blocked for clients and things. So I got this book, I mean, years before I got Reiki certified, but it was really, really cool, and I really like it. It's really to the point. It also gives you like, really liked the way that they broke it up, and I really liked the way that they honored where the chakras came from and the heritage that it came from. And I think they did it with like a really, really good respect, which I really like. I also really enjoyed how it gave you, not only did it teach you about the chakras and different things, but it also gave you exercises, mantras. It gave you like things you can eat for them. It was really, really cool. I felt like it really dove in, and it was a really good like introductory course also when I was new to it. So this is another one. I think I found it at like Target or something. I would definitely recommend. Okay, so this next one actually my wife got and then didn't read it. She's always felt very, very called to the moon. She too has psychic abilities, but she kind of is scared of them still. She'll come to it in her time. It took me time. But this is called Moon Magic. And I really enjoy like how they talk about the different stages of the moon. I learned a lot about the history and the different stages of the moon. It also talked about like, it told historical stories, which was really cool. Columbus, not a fan, and how he like manipulated the moon phases he manipulated the Native Americans using his knowledge of the moon phases to make them trust him and think that he was sent, or that he like they should work with him, or there was a sign that they should work with him. I do not like that guy. Definitely do not. And it was in like one of the first chapters of this book, and I remember just reading it and going off, like fuming and going off on a rant for like an hour and a half to everybody who was in the studio that day. Other than that, great book. But yeah, no, that part just, and I never knew it before now, and it made me so freaking mad. Anyways, moving on. We have Bewitching the Elements. This is a really, really good book. Gabriella Herstick all of her books are incredible. I want to read way more of them. If you are more into the Wicca side of things and the witchcraft and ritual side of things, rather than kind of the spiritual new age, I think they both go together really nicely. I tend to work with both and take pieces of both that speak to my soul. However, this one is really, really good. It made me really excited to like dive more in. It talks about everything, like absolutely everything. Let's see. It's very like divine, this book. Like it talks about, it tells you, it goes into tarot. It talks about each different element and how you work that into tarot and how you work that into, you know, your spell work and days of the week, colors of the week. It just had everything, and it makes it so that you can do daily magic. There are bigger rituals and things into it, but it makes it so that there are little habits and things you can do every day to make you feel closer to your craft. And I really, really enjoyed that about this. She's just amazing. I love this book. There's also like pictures in it and like, you know, from her own craft, which I think is really, really cool. And it talks about everything from like these really intense, beautiful rituals to like taking a ritual bath for yourself, a self-love bath. It just has something for everybody, and I'm a big fan of this. Okay, so next, getting more into the starseed aspect of things. This is something that I found on my own, didn't know was a thing, and then found out that it was a thing and was like kind of freaked out because I was like, I didn't know about that before I channeled these things. So I ended up doing a deep dive, and I've acquired a lot of books about this at this point. And this one, Pleiadian, is one of my favorites, Primary Principles for Living. This is one of my favorites. It's a guide to accessing dimensional energies, communicating with the Pleiadians, and navigating these changing times. So when I channel people's past lives, and just channel in general, it's a lot of going in between different dimensions, raising my vibration to meet spirit in the middle, or because they have to lower their vibration and I have to raise my vibration. That's why, fun fact, they call it a medium, meeting in the middle. So it's a lot of kind of seeing different dimensions on your way, raising your vibration and things like that. And when I channel and I communicate with somebody's guide, there are guides that are all different. There are guides that when I first communicated with them, I was like, I don't know who I'm talking to right now, but I always could feel that they were of love. So these are it's just, if you are unfamiliar with starseeds, it's just a different higher dimensional being. Think about it like a sister to angels. Angels are higher dimensional beings. These are just a different form of that, if that makes sense. Even though it's very different and it goes into way more, I could do a whole video on that, but that's how I'm going to describe it for now as like a starter sentence. But this is a really beautiful book and one that is very close to my heart, and I have read it so many times. I think I'm actually coming up on where I want to reread it. But yeah, if that is something you're interested in, if you see this book and it calls to you, I definitely recommend reading it. Okay, next. So this is also on the same, I'm gonna do this one first. This is also on the same scheme of that. This book it fell into my lap, and I'm so grateful that it did. This is one it took me a while to read, and I was a little bit like, you know, when I first read it, and I had to read it slow because it's so beautiful with the information, but it's so beautifully dense because there's so much to it. This is a channeler, kind of does similar things to what I do, who channels higher dimensional beings, and she put it all into a book of what she has found. And what was really amazing to me is that it intimidated me so much at first. Now I absolutely have comfort and love in it, and I understand it a bit more, but she was channeling things that I was channeling and was really confused about and felt alone about, and this book actually really helped me. But it is called A Gift from the Stars, and this woman, Elena Danaan, I'm sorry if I'm not saying that right, it's Danaan, is incredible, and what she has channeled is so beautiful and interesting and intricate, and her guides have helped her channel this book. This book is literally written with like her guides writing it and her channeling it, which I think is beautiful. It is something I would love to do one day if I could figure out how to do a whole book of it. But yeah, really, really incredibly interesting. And as a past life psychic and regressionist and things like that, I have regressed people and seen their past lives, and not all of them are of this dimension, which is really cool. Either, you know, I don't want to get too much on you, but you clicked on this, so it's gonna happen. So it was really, really cool to read this, and sometimes, because she also draws, so she drew different higher dimensional beings that she had seen, and it's really cool with clients to be like, oh, by the way, one of your guides stepped forward, reminded me of this, and then 9 out of 10 times when I show them, they're like, oh my God, I feel like I've known this being forever, or like, oh my God, that I know that from somewhere. And that's really, really cool. Also, look at my cute pumpkin pants. They are ginormous on me, but I feel like a pumpkin, especially when I wear them with black. And that's all I'm trying to do this season, because I love pumpkin spice, I love pumpkin, I love fall, and I found them, and even though they're like 7 sizes too big for me, I'm gonna wear the heck out of them. And I just wanted to take a small break to show the pants. Okay, so last book, I wanted to start with just a few, even though it was quite a lot. I do have way more, but last one I recently was it fell into my lap, and I'm so, so grateful. It's called Ancient Egyptian Magic for Modern Witches. I was talking about this in my most recent video as well, the unboxing video. This book is so incredible. It's from also another channeler who has connected with guides who have helped her write this book. It goes through everything. I mean, I'm not that far in, I can't put it down, but I have not finished it yet because it's only been like 2 days, 3 days. But they go into all the mythology and it starts with like going through all the gods and goddesses of ancient Egypt, which is something from the time I was born I've always been very obsessed with and drawn to. So I really, really love that aspect. And then it goes into like all of the history of ancient Egypt, of what they've known, of what her guides have told her. It goes into, it goes into everything. It goes into like images and things that she's seen and describing it. It describes hieroglyphics, and just different magical practices from Egypt that they've found and they've put into their practice, which is really, really cool. Again, I haven't read the full thing. There's even songs and hymns and things in it, but like not hymns in the religious way. I don't really know how else to describe it, but like ancient Egyptian songs and things of working with the different deities and gods and things. I just saw it now, obviously I can't find it, but really, really cool. So I'm really, really excited to keep reading this. Immediately when it was given to me, I was like, I was meant to have this book. So again, I'm really, really excited. So this is just a chaotic, witchy book haul that I've had of books that have really helped me out. I definitely recommend, if you are somebody who's interested in this but a little bit intimidated, start off slow. Just choose one book that maybe calls to you. It is a lot at first. It took me a while to kind of like, you know, dive in, so to speak. So if you're reading something also and you're finding that you're not really retaining it and that there's a lot going on up here, just put it down and come back to it, because at the time you are meant to read and learn these things, you will be called to go back to it. I have read most of these books 2 times at least, because when I read it the first time, it hits differently than when I read it the second time. And I find that just with books that I love in general. So yeah, so I hope that you enjoyed this video. It was just a quick little haul because I've been kind of thinking about it. And I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for being here.